Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Cleopadra Sophia the Bodhi.
How you
Hope you had a great week.
doing? It was something. It was something.
Nice. I just woke up from like a 2-hour nap.
Oh,
So I'm like when you're like kind of like getting back into reality
yes. Yes.
with those, especially with those like 2-ish hour naps where it's like
Yes.
long but not long enough.
Exactly. It's like just enough for you to like start to reset everything, but not long enough for you to complete the process.
Hmm.
Yeah. What a
Yeah.
mess. Like, yeah, I'm familiar. I mean, I wouldn't know because like there's been no sleep around here, but um I remember those
Yeah,
days
I
when I
didn't
could
I didn't sleep last night at all.
really, the energy was really, really rough. It's really rough. I will say that it's been really rough energy. I had a few students tell me. And it's because they always do these, they have these rituals they do on these days. And so as a result, they're literally just following their calendar. They're literally just following their calendar. And their calendar says, oh, it's Halloween, we do this ritual, and they just do it. No thought, no paying attention to the energy, no anything. So they've made many, many mistakes, but this is another one of those huge miscalculations because they've just gone too far.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting the topic that you brought up for today in terms of the womb raiders, because I had seen that video on TikTok a few days ago, as well as today there was a tweet that went viral basically showing how women are like first date right off the bat. And I think this is more like UK women. The tweet
Oh,
was geared towards UK women, where they're like, like give me money. The first date, give me money. Like where the money at? Like give me a gift. And so you had all these men, and it seemed to be mostly like black men that were posting these screenshots of women basically like demanding or I guess in some ways like begging for something pre the first date or basically without even kind of getting to know each other. So it was interesting how you had this opportunity where men were able to almost, I guess, explain their situation and explain kind of what they're dealing with, and then show this reality where there are women out here that believe like before the first date the man should be throwing down like a couple $100s for a gift. And so there's some sort of mismatch, like there's a significant like distortion in the sexual marketplace. And I think this enables something like the womb raiders to basically flourish, or just maybe um they are a byproduct of like what has been going on.
okay. So let me put this into perspective, or at least this is my working. Okay. I think that the way that we as Black people have interpreted history is actually incorrect. Even more incorrect than my previous thought process. What I actually think has been going on is that these Black men have been scapegoating white people. Now, of course, it was probably white passing Blacks that were also engaged in racism and all this stuff that was going on. But I actually now believe that it was Black men that have been scapegoating Black women from the beginning. And this is because that video where this man is talking about, oh, I can get a, fellas, get your $40. You can go back to buying women's body parts and all of this stuff for this amount. Um, that wasn't the part that was egregious. The egregious part was because he said because these women have been getting food stamps and government assistance, they have not been submissive to black men. Meaning, when a black man is behaving poorly, which they do, um, if we have government assistance, then we're not playing their game. Like we're not letting them stay in the household just because we need them for anything. And that little piece is what leads to this discussion of the womb raiders. So before I get too deep into that, let me explain to you how it works when you interact with a high priestess energy, because we have a king energy, we have a banker energy, and we have a high priestess energy. Okay. As the banker, I'm the bridge between the priestess and the king. Okay. So that's a very difficult position because, on one hand, as the king, you want things to be done in an orderly and sort of like reasonable way. But when you're dealing with a priest, that don't work like that. There is no order and reason. Now, mind you, I've been seeing this for weeks. I went back and reviewed the videos since the start of this lunar year on October the 8th. I mean, September the 8th. I went back and reviewed the videos. I have been talking about the poor behavior of black men since that day. Literally, even on the day, I think the first video was on the 9th of September. That's the video we were talking about George Floyd. Even from that day, I have been pointing out that these men are egregious and their behavior is out of hand. I know I've been talking about this in general for over a year, but with you specifically, as far as this year is concerned, I brought this up starting in September. Now, I only say that to say, when you're dealing with a priestess, like you shouldn't ever interact with the priestess, honestly, and like just around the edges, because priests and priestess are irrational. They're not going by, let's wait until it's time to do this, let's do an offensive move, let's plan this out a little bit. No, what the priest or the priestess does, and men who are in priest energy also behave like this too. What they do is they feel the energy and they don't have control over what they feel or how they feel. And so when they feel the energy, when they see something that causes them emotion, positive, like, oh, we need to do something for these people because they've done something good, or negative, oh, we have to handle this situation because it's not good. There's no space for the banker to be like, hey, why don't we already have this operation planned for December, why don't we put it all together? That it don't work like that. It just the priestess don't work like that. The priestess says you have to do something now, and I'm like, okay, let me go and do something now. Like it just there's no like communication like that can happen about this. And so that's important to understand in the big picture, because I can give the warning like, hey, I think this thing is coming up, because again, I had known that this was coming up. She, the priestess is not as aggressive as me, and so I was ready to like handle this 2 months ago almost. So it has taken this long and this egregious of a behavior for it to result in something that required me to take an immediate action. So I just want to explain that, because when you get into these very difficult and complex issues like these womb raiders, everybody has to understand what the process is. When it's an emotional topic, when it's not an emotional topic, we can move slow, we can go through procedures and processes and all of that. But when something emotional comes up, that thing cannot like go without being addressed. There's a scripture in the Bible where it says, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger." That's a good piece of advice. But with priests and priestesses, they don't have a choice. The sun the sun won't go down until they deal with their anger. So that leading into the discussion of these womb raiders, right? So if history, as black women understand it, is not correct, meaning these men have egregiously been selling us out. Because another part of this is earlier this week, we talked about it. You had the Drewski came out with a video and he was making fun of these Hebrew Israelite men. And at the end of the video, he is seen having a conversation with these white women or white Latino women or whatever. Most of the Hebrew Israelites I know, black men, they are partnered not with black women. They're partnered with white women or white Hispanics. Literally, like this is all of them. And so part of this thing is it's always been okay for them to partner outside of the race. But when black women do it, that's when they start making fun of us. So it's like, okay, even if you do, in the UK, women are totally different from black Americans, and I don't even like to get into them because they're quite disrespectful to us. But if you have UK women telling these men, hey, y'all not going to be, basically, if they're saying, hey, I need some money, like, so we can go out on this date, what they're actually saying, with their behavior is, I need a guarantee that you're not going to waste my time. Because what happens is, I don't know if this is everybody, I can only speak for black people. But when black people date amongst each other, a black man will know good and well he has no intention of ever being with this woman. Never. But he will lead her on, not for a year, not for 2 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and with never at all the intention of being serious with her. I've seen this over and over again, not like once or twice, like all the time. Black men are very, very non-committal. They do, like, some of them are. These are not the ones that I'm talking about. Like, the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that everybody has problems with. They do not want to commit. They do not want to do what's necessary. They don't want to miss anything. They want their video games or their shoes or whatever their habit is, weed, whatever it is. If you interfere with them getting what they want at all whatsoever, they will throw you under the bus. So this discussion of, paying for women's body parts, like such a small amount, is because as we talked about last week, I told you I saw these black women that were eating creme fraiche with caviar on nuggets, right? And I had mentioned that you never see black women flaunting their wealth without there being some kind of backlash. This is the backlash. These men believe that these women who are out here taking care of themselves, doing for themselves or whatever, that they're doing it with government assistance. And because the government has stepped in and taken the place of what they believe the quote unquote man should do, that it is okay for them to basically dance on the graves of black women who could potentially be going without food, or who rejected them because of their inability to commit to a relationship, their inability to be serious, their inability to follow through with their responsibilities. So we have decided to call these men super predators. That man made a video and said he was willing to pay $40. Ain't getting you nothing. It's not even putting 5 things in your refrigerator. So he is literally saying he is literally willing to pay nothing to put, he said later on in the video, about $100 a week to put food in the refrigerator so that he can be irresponsible with his penis and with his energy all over the streets. That's what he's saying. He is willing to pay $40 to have a woman that he can quote unquote call his own. So the time that he's not with that woman, he can be out here irresponsible in the streets. That's literally what he's saying. That's unacceptable. And this thing of um basically devaluing women and just putting a dollar amount on a human life, like, this is a problem with women in general. I was having a conversation on X last night with a young lady. I believe she is Asian, and she was talking about how she wanted to find a partner who was also a magician like she was, so that he would find her work valuable. And I said to her, you are valuable, your work is an accessory. Like, you are beautiful, you are great, you don't need any of that. And so she was trying to explain to me, like, well, she wants somebody who respects it and understands it. And I'm like, but those things aren't who you are. Like, you cannot lead, like, if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to find a person who values you as a person. You're going to find a person who is trying to harvest your energy and use it to manipulate you if you're approaching this situation like this. And because I'm, big sis on the timeline, I'm telling her the truth. Like, I know that is what will happen. If she continues down this thought process of, I need to be with somebody who understands my work, it's only going to get worse from here, because not only will you not be with someone who understands your work, you will end up with somebody who is deliberately sabotaging your work so that they can take credit for solving the problem. Again, these whole Captain Save a Hole, like interjecting their energy as if anybody needs their help to solve a problem. Like, I can solve my own problems. I don't need anybody to interject or interfere with me to solve a problem. And that's what we're talking about. We're not just talking about this whole, oh, well, women shouldn't be asking men for money before they go out. Why are men so unserious? Why are they willing to lead a girl on for months, years, decades with no remorse? Why are they willing to have babies with women they don't like or they're envious of? Why is this? And so Black women collectively have said, nah, we're not going to keep putting up with that. So they believe that this EBT issue is going to be a portal for them to come back into our energy and do whatever they want. And that's the part that's unacceptable. No, we have standards. It's, again, whenever a Black woman has standards, they want to flaunt their wealth, anything like that is always an issue. Like, it's always an issue. And so you, like, women, this is what these womb raiders do. And again, they're envious that they don't have a womb. They believe they can do everything a woman can do, even though they literally cannot. They physically cannot give birth. And so therefore they cannot do what a woman can do. Meanwhile, they've been gaslighting women this whole time, saying, oh, you women want to be like men, you women want to do this, you want to do that. It's like, nah, we just want to be left alone. We're saying, go and do whatever you want to do with whoever you want to do, just not with us. And so it's not every Black man, because Keith Lee put out a video and he's calling on different corporate sponsors to partner with so that they can get food to people. So it's not like they're all Black men are in this category. So I want to make that exceedingly clear. It's not all Black men, but it is Black men who are envious. They're womb raiders. They're literally envious of the fact that a woman has a womb. Because how much do you think a womb is worth? Are you paying a woman $40 to sleep with her? It's a literal question. Would you pay a woman $40 to sleep with her?
No, of course not. I wouldn't pay anything actually. Because and the reason that I wouldn't pay anything is because the connection is not financial in any matter.
It's priceless.
Right.
That's the right answer. There's no amount you could. That's the correct answer. So why is this man out here putting a value on having sex with a woman? That is a womb raider. Because a real man said this. That's priceless. There's no there's no amount I would put on that.
And it's the quality of
That's
the connection. It's because, a lot like when you put a price on something is then it's a transaction. And that's okay if it's a transaction. Like if both parties understand it's a transaction, okay, it's a transaction. But
right.
how I deal with my love life and especially those that I'm intimate with, no, this is not a transaction. I mean, yes, sure, energetically, and then I'm sure everything is a transaction. But like there has to be real love. There has to be genuine connection. There has to be a real deep attraction, but attraction beyond just like the physical, where I'm willing to open myself up to the person. And that level of standards in my life, especially when I was younger, and even now to this day, like, it has made me very exclusive. I'm not out here like that. I'm not out here playing games, talking to multiple women, doing all this sorts of stuff. And a big reason for that is because I love myself so much that I don't be messing around with people in that type of way. And I think that's the main issue with these womb raiders is it's they don't love themselves.
They don't love
That's why they
themselves.
lead women on for
Mm-mm.
years. That because they're if they truly love themselves, they would tell the girl, "Hey, girl, like I'm not into this." But
Right.
but they are willing to stay in situations that they're not into because, oh, the sex, or, oh, just have her around, or, oh, the karmic connections and the ties that people have, and whatnot. And but this is all
But that's not even it. Really what it is to prevent the woman from reaching her greatness.
sure, but
If
that's the
you
woman's fault. I mean,
no,
that's
oh no, back it up, back it up, back it up. If you're with a man and the man is telling you like he's behaving as if he's interested in you, and when you talk about being more serious, they talk about, well, I'm healing and I had this bad relationship and this and that. That is a woman's kindness. That is her heart saying, you know what? Somebody gave me a chance to get myself together. Let me give this man a chance to get themselves together. That's not the woman. Women are supposed to be soft. So what?
sure,
Because
yeah,
what you're
but
saying is in that women
well, but the thing
aren't
is,
supposed to be soft.
okay, so I think at the end of the day, with any of these topics and these topics are deep, obviously these topics,
Right.
I
They're
believe that
serious.
both sides do have, like, I can understand where both sides are coming from. But at the end of
No,
the day,
absolutely.
mm,
No, go ahead. I just said absolutely. You're right. But I can understand both sides.
um, is it always goes back to the responsibility of the individual. We as individuals are responsible for how we manage the people that come to us, the experiences that we have. And it's not that we do a good thing or a bad thing. It's that, like, if we have, in my example, let's say, if I have a woman in my life that has been leading me on for years, I can blame her all I want, but at the end of the day, why? Why do I keep
Okay.
staying in that connection? Why do I keep allowing that disrespect? Why do I keep chasing her? Why do I keep
Oh,
seeking commitment or approval from this specific woman slash this specific energy? Like, that's for me to sort out. That's for me to have to figure it out. And if I
oh,
refuse to do that, the woman, whether it's her or someone else, is going to continue to basically sting that wound that I refuse to look at, that I refuse to get evaluated.
right.
I'm not going to the doctor. I'm scared of the doctor. I don't want to see the doctor because the doctor's going to tell me that I have this, and that. So I just stay with the wound.
Okay, but let me just add this in here is that we're not talking about one generation of something. We're talking about generations and generations and generations of people observing this behavior and it being acceptable. Like just now, and I'm this is like a serious thing. Just now, women are starting to realize that this is not acceptable behavior. This is not something that in our community we have said, okay, this is unacceptable behavior. No, this has been acceptable behavior for any number of reasons, but this has been acceptable behavior for a long time. So let me go back to like the 70s. So what we've all heard about that time is that, at least as relates to black people, again, this is, I don't know how everybody else culture was doing. I can only tell you what I've heard in my own culture, okay? So what they were saying at that time was that, and we've even seen it on TV, and they've repeated this story over and over again. The government had implemented these aid programs, right? And so, in order to get the aid, there couldn't be a man in the house. And if there was a man in the house, then there would be no aid. And so, when I heard that story the first time, my major was African American studies. So, I studied a lot of cultural issues, like stuff that they were saying happened. And when I heard that, I was like, that doesn't make any sense because, and I'm not saying it didn't happen to anyone because I'm sure it did, but I just kept thinking that didn't make any sense because I knew families that were receiving benefits, and the father was there and that wasn't done to them, black families. And so I was like, okay, like I know that they say that they're doing this, but I wonder if, because we have to, like, as a people, we have to go back and question the story. I wonder how much of it was the woman using that as an excuse to tell people why this man was not in the house, because before this era of the 70s, it was an era where you stayed with the man no matter what. He could be beating you, he could be abusive in other ways, he could be stealing from you, you know, like all kinds of crazy stuff, but you always stayed with the man because that was a part of the quote unquote American culture, was to have these perfect 2.5 kids in this family and all of this stuff. And so I'm starting to wonder how much of this was using this as a reason to keep these men away from poisoning the children further with their behavior, because what you observe is what you're going to accept as acceptable. Like, that's just in general. So if you are someone who observed your parents fighting, right? You will grow up and then think that it's okay for you to fight your wife because you observe that from your family. This is like, you know, cultural, like, passed down stuff 101. Like, this is basically how it works. So if you have women that said, look, this man is abusing me, because like, let me just add this in. When you have a baby, you go to the hospital, right? Let's say you got bruises or something, you look like you've been abused, okay? The doctor, if the boyfriend, whoever is there, husband, whoever is there, the husband, they will pull the wife, the woman, away from the man and ask the woman if they're being abused, because so many women are abused in silence. They just sit back and take it because they don't believe they have any support. And so that is part of the checks that they do when people go. This is why I'm not opposed to having babies in hospitals. I know a lot of people are. I'm not one of those people, because sometimes people are being abused and they don't know they're being abused. I have a friend like this. She was being abused bad and didn't even really know it because she didn't come from an abusive family. And so she didn't recognize like that she was enduring this abuse until she started working at the hospital, and the questions that they were asking these women, and she was thinking about the answers to the questions herself, and she was like, oh shit, I've been abused. She didn't even know. So this is the kind of stuff that, like, it's very, very, if you're dealing with people who are genuine and who genuinely and honest, then you can have a different discussion. But when you're dealing with people who are literally sadistic and malicious, then you have to look at this differently. So if a woman is with a man and the man is telling her, oh well, you know, I just need a few more years, or I'm just trying, we can get married, this is what they normally do. They say, okay, well, we need, before we can get married, we have to do this. Before we can get married, we have to do that. Or like, they'll say, I just want to wait a few more years. I want to get this much money saved. Or they may even tell the woman, go ahead and start planning the wedding. And then every time they ask about details, they kind of like, well, you know, I don't know. I might not be ready for this, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then they just kind of like don't talk about it and they leave it alone. This kind of stuff, again, you're talking about people who are totally emotionally dysregulated. You're not talking about people who have the emotional capacity to be to have their standards high. You're talking about people who are being attacked. They're being attacked at work, like by just working these jobs and all this stuff. Then if they have kids, they're being attacked at the schools because the parents and all this stuff, the parents, they really don't want the parents at the school. The parents start asking questions. The kids are crazy and all that stuff. So then they're also being attacked at home. Like they're trying to have this relationship with this man and it's kind of not working. Then who are they going to go and talk to? They're going to go and talk to their mom. Well, their mom has the same issue. She's got a man. She's been living with him for 30 years and they never got married and all this stuff. So this is the kind of, like, you're not talking about people who are functioning normal people. You're talking about people who are severely handicapped in emotional intelligence because of all of the trauma. So when you talk about that, it's extremely difficult for not, and I'm not saying that it's still not the person's fault. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we have to look at this in a very nuanced way. If we're talking about somebody who grew up in a two-parent household, went to a reasonable school and wasn't abused as a child, because that's a whole nother thing. Most Black women have been abused as children by family members. So then you've got family members who are protecting other family members who are abusers. The number is high. They never do studies on this. They can't. People won't tell the truth. But I'm telling you, from anecdotal experience, the numbers are very, very high. And so it's all of these things going on at one time. And so the womb raiders, I'm not just talking about these men who are out there somewhere. There's even men within the family who are abusing children in the family. Women, these are also the same people. There's men who hate their mothers because of whatever they believe their mothers did, whatever, that hate their daughters enough that they would abuse them. It's a lot of abuse. Like, it's just a lot of abuse, and it's really that has to be taken into account. Like, and I'm not saying other groups don't have a lot of abuse, but you have now a generation of Black women who are trying to overcome that, who are trying to step outside of that range. And conversations like this with this man saying, um I'm gonna reach back out to all the old girls I used to talk to and see if I can get me some cheeks and all this stuff. This is not like, this is confirming the reality that we can see. Like, you can see this with your eyes. And that is a really, really bad scenario, because when you've done a lot of work to deal with trauma and you come out of the trauma, these things can trigger you to go back into trauma and your trauma responses and all of that. Which is, again, it just, again, we have a little kingdom here that we're trying to move forward and bring in people who are highly functioning. This kind of abuse, like this kind of triggering, can take you from a functioning person to a non-functioning person. I literally watched it with my friend and I was like, okay, this is like really serious. Like, we have to talk about it. She said, yes, because this is what these men do. She was so upset. She was like, you have to talk me off the ledge. I'm like, this is like twice in 1 week. I have to talk you off the ledge over this stuff. Like, this is not normal. Like, so that's also to say, whatever their rituals that they're doing right now, on top of everything else, to have this as a part of the discussion is only amplifying a problem that could be normally addressed, like I was talking about before, through a regular protocol. But because they're also putting this is, and so I want to point this out, because this is the kind of stuff that I saw during the holiday season. Like, during the holiday season, normally you would be happy, you would be joyous and all this stuff, but they were deliberately twisting the knife. Like, they already stabbed us. They're deliberately twisting the knife with all of these like celebrity stories and all of this stuff, so that even if you are a person who has come out of this type of situation, and I won't say that all Black women have been in it, but a vast majority have. You've come out of, at least ones who have had to, not had to, Black women who have dated Black men have experienced this. There's no way they didn't. Even from the richest to the poorest. If you're a black American woman who dated a black American man, you have experienced what this man is talking about. Period. This period. Okay. So you have this whole thing during Christmas where you're trying to, like, again, holidays are also very traumatic in the black community. That's a whole nother part. But you have all of this trauma you're trying to come out of, trying not to have replay out in your life. And then you have society, like these overlord structures, whatever, that are deliberately coming in and twisting the knife. Like when you are literally, it's like kicking somebody when they're down. That's what this is like. Like black in general, I wouldn't say black women are down. I would say that there's a lot of people worried about their stability, right? The system is collapsing. This is just a whole issue. A lot of people are worried about their stability. And so if you already got people, the conscious energy is people are worried about the stability. And then you have this introduction of this idea that some man that you escaped from the past is going to reach out to you to attempt to have sex with you for $40. That's a trigger. Like that's just a huge, like you can spiral out of control just from something like that. That is the total honest truth. So that's why, I took the step of doing a ritual, because in my mind, I know women like this. Like I know women who would spiral out from something like this, from some guy that they got away from. They blocked them on everything, reaching out to them on some other numbers, saying, "Hey, big head, what you doing? I got gas money. I got some weed. I got whatever. Like, I'll stop and get you some McDonald's." Like, this is what they do. And that is just like when you have like worked on yourself so much, for someone to believe that they can even have access to your energy enough to just say something like that to you, that can cause you to go off. And I'm gonna be honest about that. That can cause you to lose it, and not in a good way. And you all the work, not saying all the work, but hypothetically, the work that you've done will not have its potency because you have gone off into, we talked about crisis management earlier this week. This is the type of thing that could spin you into a crisis.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's as you talked about, like this is really serious things, and it's only going to intensify, not just in this specific
Right,
topic, but just this is the system trying to regain control of the narratives of
right,
basically trying to rebuild its motion. It has no motion right now, so it's
right,
it's
right,
it's it's as you see, it's having to go towards the trauma. Okay, let's go to the trauma.
right,
Let's go to the
right.
weakest point. Let's go to the people and the things, the topics that hurt the most, that will
Yeah,
in their eyes, hopefully trigger these specific groups of people to basically return. Because what's happening right
right,
now is they're leaving Egypt. Black
right,
women collectively are leaving Egypt. Men are leaving. Now, obviously, it's different groups, but like
right,
those that see the light, those that have had it with the bullshit, those that are sick and tired of being treated like shit, both by other
right,
people or by the system or by both, treating themselves like shit. It's because if we have lived in a system that has treated us like shit, the likelihood that we have been treating ourselves like shit, obviously it's the same.
right,
It's the
right,
same because then that's how the system tries to convince us that the power is out there when we're the ones that have the power. And so what I'm trying to figure out in this whole situation, that is a very um it's almost like we're walking on eggshells because it's so charged up, is
right,
I care about the long term. How do we make sure that in this case the women are given the tools where we don't have to be there to protect them. We don't have to be there to,
Mm.
check the men. We don't have to be there to be like the guardians, but instead, as they say, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Like that's what I am, and I think as the king, I'm focused on is what do we have to do as the empire, as the Holy Imperium, to provide the protocols, the structure, the guidance for both men and women, so that like this is not ever a wound anymore, so that we can actually
Mm.
heal this wound. And so when the system or whatever entities in the future try to come at it like that, it doesn't work anymore. And so I think all of this goes back to the self-love, where like
Right.
it's you know the system is going to keep implementing these very intense triggers, and we cannot be, in terms of us as the heads of the Holy Imperium, be playing Captain Save-A-Ho, because that's what the system wants, right? Remember, with the ice, right? I was trying to
Right.
play Captain Save-A-Ho. So I was
Right.
getting involved in the mix. They want that. They want my energy. They want me to, instead of leading the new world order, they want me going to the old world order and trying to defend my people, trying to make sure that the system doesn't mess them up. But it's like it's beyond my hands now. It's for the people to rise up and say, enough. I've had
Right.
it. I'm done. This man texted me. It triggers me. But what are you as the individual going to do? Because if I have to be there to hold their hand and convince them, hey, you got it. You're strong. Come with us. I don't have time for that. Right? We have millions upon millions of men and women that, like, if I could hold their hand, I would love to hold their hand, but it's just not feasible. And so but basically is happening, which, like, as unfortunate as it is with the system being so chaotic, this is actually playing long term to our aims, because it's like it has to get so bad that in this situation, women are like, I have had it. Maybe
Right.
the man does hit them up and they say, you know what? Fine, I'll bite the apple. But that's the last time they're gonna bite that apple. Because when it happens, however it plays out, boom, they're like, you know what? I'm over this. I'm over this. And so they had to hit the rock bottom to basically realize, like, okay, I did what I had to do. I basically broke this karmic cycle. And that's what I think humanity collectively is basically, in their individual ways, is being forced to figure out. Because for so many years, I tried to be the angel, the savior, to come in and provide the guidance, provide the wisdom. Did these people listen? Did these people give a fuck? No, they're still in the same shithole situations, shithole relationships, still hate themselves. They don't do things to honor themselves, to love themselves. So instead of me investing so much time and energy trying to save these peasants that refuse to see the light, I have to build the light. I have to build the infrastructure. I have to build the empire to be strong enough so that when they finally hit rock bottom, they have a place to go for protection. Now, of course, we're always going to protect them, right? We're always
Right.
going to be there for them. But at some point, we have to be very mindful in terms of how do we want to get involved in the old system, because they want us to run back into hell and stay in hell, instead of figuring out, okay, how do we lift these people up and support them energetically? How do we send energy not to attack these men, which I think they still should be attacked, but to send energy to women to be strong, to hold, to be sovereign, to be independent, to be powerful, so that when that man calls them up, something within them convinces them, break the cycle, break the cycle. And only that individual can do that. We cannot break the cycle for them.
Right, right. Okay. So I think this is where the folk magic comes in. This is where the rituals come in. This is the benefit of doing a ritual. Because when you engage in a ritual, right, you're focusing your energy on one energetic point. And the ritual that I put out there for people, and so this is how I handle things in general. I know that I can't save anybody. Like, I'm not a savior, so I can't save anybody, but what I can do is give you the tools to create the space, to give you the shoe and the tefnut of them all, so that you can have a space to separate your emotional energy from what you're experiencing. So the way that I suggest people do that, aside from the breathing is really important, but is a ritual. Because in the moment of you creating the ritual or doing the ritual, or whatever it is, you are literally giving yourself space to separate whatever that is from you. So in this example, I gave a cord cutting with a black candle, and just writing the people's names on it and literally doing a cord cutting. Like, if people practice proper spiritual hygiene, this stuff wouldn't continue. But because the spiritual hygiene of it all has been separated from, especially black women, but everybody, the spiritual hygiene of it all has been separated out, you don't understand that all of these things go back to your spiritual hygiene practices. So, for example, ain't nobody calling me. To be clear and to be fair, ain't nobody calling me. First of all, I changed my number. So if they hitting somebody up, that person is going to be really mad. I don't care. So can nobody even get in contact with me? Can nobody even have access to my energy? Because I engage in very, very serious spiritual hygiene. So when this whole EBT thing first came up with the black men, I never even saw it. This is how disconnected I am from that. I never even saw it. So I didn't even have any energy to give it at all, because I didn't see it. It literally wasn't even in my purview. But the benefit of having a high priest or a high priestess energy is that that's the kind of thing that they can feel, and so they're the ones who have to deal with the feeling of the emotion. Like, you're the emperor, you don't have to do with the actual feeling of the emotion. That's for the priestess to do, and for me to interpret and build the bridge across. But you don't actually have to be you don't have the capacity to help millions of people one by one, but the priest does. My priest at my church, he talks to everybody. People say all the time they have never seen a priest with as much energy as the priest at my church. That is a fact. That's a job for the priest to do. So you don't have to do that job. I just have to make you understand that it's serious, because if it comes up again, like, if this what I bridged the gap and said, okay, I'm just gonna give him a ritual. Now that's not something that she could do, because in order to do a ritual, you kind of have to be in king energy, and it's not for you to give a ritual, because how would you know which ritual to give? So I'm like, okay, I just did this, and again, this is tied into my energy. I had just did this ritual, so I already had it fresh on my mind, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Boom, 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 boom. Put the solution out there. And once it's in the internet, because remember, the internet is the ley lines, and we haven't talked about this at all. But the internet is the ley lines. The ley lines is the way that it's really the real matrix. It's literally how every person is connected to every other person on the internet. So let me give you an example. So I made that video around 4 o'clock. Stitch it together with the other guy who had said that crazy stuff. And I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I made a video. I showed how to supercharge the candle, how to write on it, all the stuff. I did it, and I put the video out there, right? Before I got home, because I didn't get home until like 20 minutes ago. Well, it's been an hour now. An hour and 20 minutes ago, I got home. Before I got home, the priestess sent a message. Oh, they're going to use the whatever funds for the EBT, because somebody had put out there on TikTok that people was going to get their EBT funds tomorrow. So before I even because I made the video and said, this is how you're going to solve this black woman, this is how you're going to do this, And if you can't do it, you don't have the physical supplies, just comment on my post and you be covered in this ritual. That's what I did. Before I could even light the candle, the government had to step in and say, we must do something because we don't want these black women to think they have that much power. So they stepped in and did something. Now, did I force the government's hand? Did I force the men's hand? I don't know whose hands I forced, but I know one thing. I said it's not gonna stop me from lighting my candle because this cannot continue. Like it can't continue with me and my energy, and it can't continue with anybody. So I'm not taking my video down. I'm not recounting or saying, well, the government stepped in. So no. We need all the super predators to be dealt with. We don't need any super predators in our energy. We don't need any of these womb raiders in our energy. We don't need any of these Hebrew Israelite men in our energy. They all have to get out of our energy. And so that it's too late. Like it's got to be done. Like now there's no like space to just give them an inch to come back in. And it feels a little bit more aggressive than what I would normally do, but based on the fact, like again, I went back and reviewed the tape because I also have to take into account how long I've been talking about something, a very specific issue. Sometimes, again, if it's like issues that are like and 50-50 issues, I won't even get into it until it's like a big thing and then I have to act. But most of the time I don't try to get involved in people's business. As long as I don't I just don't try to get involved in people's business for as long as I can. But it gets to a certain point where this thing has been going on. I mean, the abuse that I've taken being in this spiritual community is egregious, and that's not even anything else from the whole rest of my life. Like the kind of things I've been through is literally egregious. And so at some point you have to decide for yourself, look, I don't want anybody else to experience this. So if all I have to do is light a candle and that will give some woman a space to be able to see what's going on with her, then I will do that. I'll do it every day. This is where, again, you get back more into the spiritual side and into the side of the church, because the priestess or the priest is the one who leads the church. And so this is where you get into the spiritual side when you have to work on quote unquote saving souls. That's not for me to do either. As the banker, I don't really save people's souls. All I'm doing is putting a message out there. Like I said, converting the message from the priestess to language that actually makes sense so that it can be disseminated. Like that's my part. So everybody just has to be in their place. And part of, like I said, what I have to do is make sure you know what the problem is. And it's not like, no, it's not for you to solve, because as the king and the king of this whole triad, it's not, the king cannot solve these problems. Some problems the king can solve. If it's monetary stuff, if it's battles, if it's like more masculine energy, obviously we're coming to the king to do what needs to be done. But this is a feminine energy. Like this whole problem is feminine in nature, like because it's an emotional thing, it's a trauma thing. So there's not really, I would say, there's what the king can do is call down the judgment so that the judgment can be played out. So I have an example of this from the Bible, and this was a scripture that we looked up earlier. So I want to just like read these two short stories and put them together. This is both from the New Testament. So in Matthew 18 and no, let me start with Luke. In Luke 7 and 41, it says, there was a certain creditor who had two debtors. One owed 500 denarii and the other 50. When they had nothing with which to repay, he freely forgave him both. Tell me, therefore, which of them will love him more? Simon answered and said, I suppose the one whom he forgave more. Okay? So that's one part of the story. Then let's go to the other part. This is Matthew 18 and 22. No, let me start with 21. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle the accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. That's like owing somebody 10,000 $10 bills. But as he was not able to pay, his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and that payment be made. The servant therefore fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. The master said that the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. But that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. That's like owing somebody 100 pennies. Okay? And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And he would not, but went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what had been done, they were very grieved, and came and told their master all that had been done. Then said his master, after he called him, said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not also have compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So my heavenly Father also will do to you if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses. This that in the first story, the one person was forgiven more than the other person, right? And so the person who was forgiven more actually was the one who had the most compassion. He was the one that was the happiest. In this story, you have the one that was forgiven more, still being still not being compassionate to his own friend, brother, servant who owed him far less than what he was forgiven. So this is where the whole concept of the hierarchy comes in, because the master, who was the master of both of these servants, right? He forgave the one who owed him way more. And that person, in his great ignorance, couldn't even forgive the person who owed him way less than what he owed the other person. And so this is the kind of energy that and it says at the end of the scripture, which is why I read it, that the Lord is going to do to those who don't forgive their trespasses. Now, what does that mean? The master of both of these servants sent the one who refused to forgive the debts of the other servant, but had gotten his debts forgive. He didn't send him to the debtor's jail, because the oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The one who, the one who forget, his house is like insane. The one who forgave the most debts, right? The one who had the most debts forgiven did not forgive the lesser debts. And the one, since he didn't forgive that man's lesser debts, he sent him to debtor's prison. But the master who forgave the more debts sent him to the torturers. These people need to go to the torturers, because they have not learned any of the lessons. They haven't forgiven any debts. They haven't they're not grateful for having their debts forgiven, and they continue to traumatize people with this kind of behavior. So if you can understand how this energy should flow, that's another part of it. How do we make sure people don't experience this? We have to tell people they have to forgive. If somebody forgives you, you have to forgive the next person, right? And I feel like for Black women, we have, like I said, been saying for a few weeks now, we have done a lot of work to forgive our parents, to forgive our community, to forgive our families, to forgive these men. We've done a lot of work to forgive all of these different, scenarios, these different things that have been happening. We've done a lot of that. And so even though we've done that, these men who have been forgiven way more, like way more than we've been forgiven, because like we're talking about in a previous episode, men were given the right to black men were given the right to vote before black women were, way before. So why is it that if they were forgiven their debts way before we were forgiven our debts, that they still are treating us as if we have to pay them back, like we owe them? That's what they, again, this whole thing, we owe them our bodies, whatever they want, whenever they want, because that's what one of the tenets of the Hebrew Israelite culture is. Like, you literally like have to give your husband or your man or whoever what he wants whenever he wants. Like, if like, your body is not your own body, this whole submissive culture. And that's the kind of like thing that is like being told to women. Like, men have been forgiven, like, and said, okay, welcome to America, you've got all these options and choices and all of that. But they haven't done that at all to women. They're basically still saying, yeah, you're in this country, but you owe me. You're only here because I helped you get in this door, so you better pay up something. So if you want to continue to eat, like, this is the kind of behavior that they're engaged in. And so, how do you prevent this? Everybody has to forgive everybody. Like, I've been making a video saying, okay, we forgive the spirits, we forgive this one, we forgive that one. I'm not holding any grudges. Just, and I even said that this week. It's like, somebody did me wrong. It's cool. But we've passed the 70 times 7 with these black men. Like, it's already been 100 times 7. Like, we have forgiven a lot, and they still refuse to forgive themselves, forgive us, forgive their mothers. They're still mad at all these people. They have not done any of the work to forgive anybody. And so they are literally sending us to debtor's prison for $40, right? Trying to pay $40 to purchase our parts instead of just forgiving the debt. If they know somebody out there that they used to date gets food stamps and they have an extra $40, why not just give it to them? Why go through this whole process of, yeah, you're gonna have to give this up before I give you anything? That's a transaction. That's not forgiveness. That's not love. And so, again, they don't love themselves. They haven't done any of the work to forgive anybody either. And even though they've been forgiven, they still literally will not forgive women, their mother, whoever, for whatever has been done to them. At least that's what I'm observing.
Yeah, I think what you said in terms of like, why are they giving $40? Just out of the kindness of their heart. And I think like that type of energy is the energy that I believe we should be one of the energies that we should be focusing on in a
Right,
subject like this, where it's like it's let's alchemize this transaction to generosity, to abundance, because the whole paying $40 for potentially something to happen with the woman, like that's very scarcity minded. That's a man that lives in a very scarcity
right,
minded state, both to pay so little and then also like to see themselves as so little. Right? Because
right,
it's like, so you see yourself as, instead of paying a woman a couple $100, let's say, for example, you like, it's really what the man is saying is he's showing that he doesn't value himself. That's really what it
right,
is he's showing that he doesn't value himself. And so what I think, it's how do we as the empire not react from the place of just this like that like reptilian brain, but really
right,
sit down, absorb the energy, alchemize it, and I think what you said is like direct energy to push the man collectively to be generous, to provide. It's, give the $40 without seeking anything. If a man, if because um if a man came back into the life of a woman and he just gave with no expectations in return, wow. What a groundbreaking thing that would occur now. But this also goes into, like, well, how's the woman going to deal with it? Because I mean, it's
Right.
because as we begin to elevate, people don't just heal instantly. In terms of, like, it's going to take a while for people to uh heal from everything that they have gone through, especially considering that, like, they're not being directly guided. Like, they're really in many ways just walking in the dark, just trying to figure it out. Everybody's just trying to figure it out. So um as men and women collectively as well as individually begin to accelerate themselves in doing the work and in doing the healing and putting themselves first, putting their self-love above all else, like, these karmic connections of the past, whether it's those same people or others, because it's just energy, it's just the energies that come back, are going to make their way back in what I would say more quote unquote healed versions, and that's going to
Right.
be a real test. And so I think, with things like what is going on is right now humanity for the most part is really down bad. And so
Right.
we are doing the best that we can to provide the way, the guidance, so that people start to pick themselves up and start moving towards the path. But, like, that's not even half the battle. Like, there's still, every step that they take towards the path, there's going to be distractions. There's going to be temptations. There's going to be attempts to basically
What
test,
happened?
hey, are you faithful? Are you serving God? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Are you truly
Right.
loving yourself? As we have done individually our whole life, but obviously as you see it happening every day, like every day we are tested to see if we
Right.
truly are serving God, to see if we truly have faith, to see if we truly are generous, loving, abundant, this, that. Like, it's not a thing that we could just snap a finger and say, okay, everything is good, guys. We're all good to go. Men are going to be wonderful. Women are going to be wonderful. Everything is great. No, it's going to be rolling up the sleeves and really getting to work. And this is why I always go back to the self-love, because I know that if we are able to help direct the energy towards humanity to focus on that self-love, individuals are going to have the tenacity and strength to overcome what's to come, because we're just beginning in this process. Like, humanity is just beginning in this process. It's not going to get any easier for people. It's going to be challenging, but if the self-love is the the nexus, is the source by which we essentially provide for our people, they have the light, because they know
Right.
that their standards will be high, where whatever temptation might come, hey, look, if you fall for temptation temporarily, that's okay. But if you truly love yourself and you're doing the work to love yourself, you're going to pick yourself back up. It's okay to be, it's okay to fall to temptation. There's nothing like
Right.
it, like, it's not that, oh, you felt a temptation, it's over, you're not going to be able to be saved or this or that. No, it's part of the human process. The issue is right now, people fall to temptation and they think that they're done. They think that they're gone. So they're like, you know what? Why don't I just keep falling for temptation? Why don't I just keep basically just bathing in my own failure because, like, hey, I failed once. But no, when we love ourselves, we fail, and instead of beating ourselves up, we are loving on ourselves, caring on ourselves. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's learn from the experience. Let's learn from the situation, and let's do better.
Right.
And so I think what So, and I mean, I think how this has been playing out, especially in this specific topic that we're discussing, it's great. It's great. It's great what the priest just did. It's great what you're doing. And for me, like, I'm always looking to see long term, how do we build something sustainable so that we have uh we could throw the life jackets to people to be saved, to be able to have something tangible that they're able to build upon, so that whether we're there or not, like, they're going to be good. Because I know a lot of people in my reality, like most people actually, like, I dedicated so much time and energy into supporting them, empowering them, nourishing them, loving them, forgiving them. And they did not change. It was only until I left. It was only until they began to feel the pain and suffering that it is to be removed from my energy, that they began to slowly wake up to their reality of what they had both done to themselves, but also what they are doing in their reality. And so,
Well,
um
that's what a cord cutting. I mean, again, that's what a cord cutting is. That's literally like spiritual hygiene.